not much known about my profession here. So I think this is a great way of just creating some, enlightening a little bit the community about what music therapy can do. Yeah? So as you see, I wrote it down because I deserve it. Because I got all those titles. So as you see, I have a bachelor in music therapy. I got that in Argentina as 4-year bachelor. I did a fellowship in Holland, which is like every 2 years you have to show some videos of your work, and they will, there's a panel that will check if you're doing a good job or not. Yeah? And then I did a master of 2 years of music therapy in the University of Colorado. So as you see already, there's a lot of study into it. No, it's not just like making music, and music is therapeutic. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is my definition. I didn't put the official one because I think it's a bit boring. So I just put it in my own words. Yeah. So as you see, it's a healthcare profession. I'm a therapist, and I use music in a therapeutic way with my clients. It can be one client, it can be a group. Yeah. And of course, it has to be a certified music therapist, as somebody that studied music therapy. And then I can address communication, social skills, motor skills, emotional needs of individuals of all ages. Very important, music therapy is not a music lesson. Yeah? So the difference is, you maybe come to me and you see my session, you say, oh, they're making music. He's playing the drum. He's learning how to play the drum. No, he's not coming to me to learn to play the drum. Maybe I'm working to enhance his coordination skills. Yeah. So I work with bilateral movements. Maybe we're singing, but it's not that my client is having a singer. That's a singer. Yeah. But I'm working on speech. I'm working on breath control. I'm working on articulation. Yeah, so I use music as my therapeutic tool, yeah? But my goals are non-musical, yeah? It could be maybe that I teach the child a little song on the piano, but my goal is to help them enhance their fine motor skills, yeah? So that's the difference. So sometimes a lot of people expect me to teach their child music, but that's not, I'm not a teacher, I'm not in the educational setting. I work in a more clinical setting. Yeah? And next one, please. Okay, so what do we do? Music therapists work with many, many kinds of people and ages, but I will tell you what I do here. I can work on cognitive skills, I can work on motor skills, speech and language. So as you see, I have a lot in common with many other therapists, like PTs or occupational therapists, speech therapists. And that's great because I work together with all of them. And when you work, with different specialists on the same, with a similar goals, you're enhancing the results. Yeah. And my medium, as music, of course, is a very stimulated medium, like motivational, and it arouses the child. Of course, because it's fun. It's fun to make music. And they think they're just playing and just having fun, whether we are actually working on therapeutic goals. Yeah? And what do? We play music, we sing, we listen to songs, and maybe do some, for example, with children with anxiety or low self-esteem, they bring their songs and we talk about the lyrics, and that opens ways for them to talk about other things that maybe is hard. We make songs. The children doesn't have to know about music. That's no need. I have a room full of instruments, and it's up to them to play whatever they feel, and we just make music together. Anybody can make music. You don't need to know how to make music. Of course, I don't have saxophone because nobody will know how to play it. Yeah, all instruments are easy to play. Yeah, and I put there, music is a powerful and non-invasive medium, and therefore unique outcomes are possible, and outcomes that can benefit the child, the staff, and their families. Yeah? Thanks. Okay, so this is what I love about music therapy. This is what about music and our brain, the connection. And that's actually the therapeutic framework of music therapy. Nowadays, there's so many studies is that music activates many areas of the brain. This is just a little example. For example, when you make music, you are working also on motor areas. So maybe the same motor areas as doing a movement, like walking or just moving your arms. Yeah. And when you are singing, you're activating most of us have on the left side of our brain have the Broca area, who is here our speech therapist here, who is in charge of our speech. Yeah. So when you're singing, you're actually using that area, but also other areas in your brain. Yeah. So it's like music enlightens your brain. Even when you listen to music, only listening, your motor areas will be activated, even if you're not moving, because you're thinking about it. You're thinking about music and you're thinking about rhythm, because music has many things. It has rhythm, it has melody, it has the different intervals in music, tempos, or many components that activates our brain. Yeah. So this is very important. As I said before, there are shared networks in our brains with other areas. Yeah. For example, when we sing, we activate the same areas as speech and language. When we move, we activate the same areas that we do with a motor exercise. When we are thinking and organizing music, we can also activate more the frontal areas, which are used for cognitive tasks. Yeah? A very simple example of this is people who stutter. I don't know if you ever saw, but people who stutter will stutter verbally, but they won't do that when they're singing. They don't do that. And that's a perfect example of why our brain, yeah, because when they sing, they're using also the right side of their brain, which is more into melody, yeah. So they are making like new ways to connect with the language area, the speech area of their brain. So it's like, you know, when sometimes certain networks are like having this jam, yeah, you just look for other ways, and that's what you can do with music, yeah. And extended network. Music activates not only one area, but many at the same time. Of course, it motivates, yeah? Making music gets us moving, gets us in a good mood, and it's playful, it's creative, which is super important. We activate motor areas, which is super important for anticipation and structure, because our brain needs structure, and especially for example, with speech, when a child needs to do certain sounds, they need to be able to anticipate and they need to be able to have certain structure. And music gives them structure. A song gives them a certain structure where they can, for example, make a certain sound. And neuroplasticity. Our brain has this amazing quality of changing. Yeah, so it has been seen that, for example, the corpus callosum, which is the central of our brain, connects both hemispheres. That is wider in musicians, for example, in pianists. Why? Because they are, they're working with both hands, and their corpus callosum, the connection between two hemispheres, is bigger than us, maybe that are not professional musicians. Yeah. So that's one of the examples how our brain can change anatomically to music. Yeah? Okay, next one, please. Okay, how can music support communication and social skills? Here in Little Village, I started working in Rifa branch, and today I'm starting here as well. And I do groups with the children, music therapy groups. Yeah? So if you see from outside, it will look like a music session, right? But actually, all this amazing stuff here will give me the goals for every client. So this client has to work on eye contact, social skills. This client needs to say certain sounds. This client needs to work in attention. So every activity I chose, I make sure that I'm targeting those goals. Yeah? And it's beautiful to see what happens in music. Yeah? Because everybody gets to be a leader, everybody gets to do a little solo, and everybody listens. So it's very beautiful how children react, even those that still are not maybe verbal, they still can participate in music, yeah, making sounds, yeah. And rhythm is a great tool to calm and organize the sensory systems. Why? What do you think?
The beat of the heart also makes us.
Yeah.
The rhythm gives you that calming down of your heart.
Totally, yeah. You're with rhythm, you know what's coming.
Yes.
You know, it's not like, it's the beat.
Yeah, this is the next.
It's not just like, probably if you hear some crazy music, you know, like this kind of freestyle music is all over the place, whether when you have rhythm, you have structure, you know what's coming, and that calms your sensory system. Especially when we're working with little ones here, little babies, that some of them need a lot of sensory input to really focus, yeah? And of course I work, for example, this is a beautiful instrument I work, this is called cabasa, yeah? And children, I use this instrument, well, they pass it to each other, again, beautiful. They pass it, you have to look at the kid just next to you, you give it to them, and they will take turns in, for example, with a song, this, like I will say the name of the child, in my case Florencia rolls the cabasa on her leg, and they will be, and just the feeling, you can pass it if you want. Kids love this feeling of the cabasa. It's just a sensory input, and they can use it everywhere they need to at a time. They can choose where they want to. And of course it's shiny, so a lot of kids love shiny thing, you know. So that's one of the instruments. All the instruments give you some sensory input, yeah? Okay, repetition I said, so important. And social interaction. When we're making music, we're making things together. We take in turns. We are learning when to stop, when to go on. Yeah, we look at each other and we're being creative together, and we have a product that is music. Yeah, and I love that little thing because I think it's so important, because it's true that not all our kids will get to a point where they will verbally speak, because there are many cases that they cannot. Okay, but I think it's really important to know that that's not less than verbal language. Yeah, so communication is a human right. Mouth words are not superior to any form of communication, so all forms of communication should be valued. And I think in that way, music therapy can be such a good help for children who are verbally not active, yeah, but they still, as any other human being, need to communicate. So we need to find other ways of communicating, and music is a great way to communicate, yeah, and to have this reciprocity between human beings, yeah. Okay. So, major facts about the relationship between speech, music, and language. This is one of our groups in Little Village in Rifa, yeah. So at this time, for example, I have this little child there who finds it very hard to verbalize, but he loves music and he loves moving, and he finds it really hard to control himself with movements. Like stop and go is really hard for him now. But in this exercise I'm doing now, I want to like shine a light on him because he's doing an amazing job. And everybody has, you know, a xylophone, yeah? So I have tone bars separately. So everybody gets a tone bar, and they all have different colors. And he needed to work also on color recognition. So then what I do, I sing a song, I create many songs, and I sing a song about a certain color bar. And that child has to come in the middle and play and dance and do whatever they feel, and they get a full attention, yeah? So a lot of things that I say it singing, because sometimes singing information, it's easier to process for certain kids than speech, yeah? And so I always tell him everything singing. in a simple way, because I'm singing the instructions and he knows what's coming, then he can prepare himself to do it. Yeah, I have other videos, but probably we won't have time. So, but I just wanted to show a little example of it. Of course, when you're singing, you're distinguishing between sounds, yeah, and letters. However, the time is good. You have to call and response. They learn your vocabulary because they need to learn the lyrics of songs, right? So learn vocabulary. Maybe they learn new vocabulary that they never heard of. They have to listen and attend and focus and look at each other. And there's also something called auditory sequencing, which is very important. It's the connection between the words and the sounds and how we make order with it. Yeah, that also we can practice with music. Okay, so
It's
yes.
okay, guys. Stay for 5 minutes before you.
Okay, so okay, so this is a song. This is a song. I will sing it for you. It's very complicated. Bidi bidi bam 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 bam. Bidi bidi bam 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 bam. Bidi bidi bam 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 bam. Bidi bidi bam 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 bam. The lyrics is very complicated. I will win a prize for this lyric, right? But if you think about it, our speech therapy thing, what kind of sounds do we have here? Bilabial sounds, yeah? B's, M's, P's are all bilabial sounds. And those are the first sounds any child makes when they start speaking, yeah? And if you think about it, these sounds we are practicing like 40 times in 10 seconds. Because in this song, we are singing these sounds in like 40 times in only 10 seconds, yeah? If you would do that speaking, our speech therapists won't get so much clients, yeah? Because it will be very boring, yeah? So, but of course the song is fun. And we are kind of exposing the child to all these sounds that we want them to make. We expose them, and then we hope that they can incorporate the sounds and explore with them, yeah? So maybe a child won't sing it exactly, but they will like be, ba, 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 after the song, yeah? So this is just, you know, a very easy way on how you can work with sounds and building words. Because we are here on sound level, and then we will go to word level, yeah? And maybe they start by just playing an egg shaker with a song. Doesn't matter that they are with me, they are listening, yeah? They are listening to being exposed to all these sounds, yeah? Okay, so just to kind of recap, these are all beautiful pictures from Rifa, by the way. Just the one on top now, but music making can serve as a way of communicating non-verbally for participants who struggle to freely express themselves, while also being a positive reinforcement to encourage participants to communicate verbally. That's really important. It's a reinforcement to encourage participants, because when they all see that other kids are, you know, are singing and they also try and they also copy each other. Singing and playing instruments in a group setting can encourage participants to engage in social communication. That's actually research-based. There's many research about it. And music can make therapy less intimidating and more fun. That's also an important fact. So what can you do at home? Maybe some ideas. The wheels on the bus go round and yeah, okay. It's the same if I do this. Da 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 da. Yeah. Why? Why you have to do the da? Yeah, because it's like this auditory scaffolding that you're very nervous structure. You bring out everybody who won't finish that sentence. Who won't finish that sentence? Everybody in the world will finish that, right? So it's the same with songs, nursery rhymes. You sing the song, and you can even help them with, you know, the wheels on the bus go round, and you just show him the first letter, yes? And then you go and sing it. If you give him some time, if he doesn't fit it in, doesn't matter, you go on. And whenever for the child to fill in that sound. Yeah. If your child is still not communicate like very active verbally, use simple things. You can even create your own, you know. Like if he loves balls, you just like, I want my ball, I want my ball, I want my, yeah, and you know, you just, and you first give the model, and then you wait the child to say it, yeah? Sometimes singing is easier than speaking first. So, for example, here we have a speech therapist.
Many children will sing but don't speak.
Exactly, yeah. So many times I work in another center where I work, sometimes they will send them to me first, especially when they're very little, to try to, you know, to put them, put them in action, yeah? And once they reach a certain level, then the speech therapist take over and works really on language and all the amazing things that speech therapists do, yeah? Make music together, buy some instruments that sound properly, not those toys that doesn't have any sound, yeah? But just like a drum, for example, this is beautiful, a drum. You can play together with your child, you take turns, you imitate each other, yeah? You copy what your child does. If your child has a lot of difficulty in making eye contact, play with your child, and then he has to look at you for you to play, you know? Or you take in turns, yeah, until you don't look at me, I'm not gonna play. You know, those are all little things that you can do when you play with them, yeah? Use songs. This is the way we brush your teeth, yeah? For certain activities, even if there's activities that they find hard, that they don't like, I don't know, maybe putting their clothes on, maybe they don't like it, but because you're singing a song, that gives them a sense of control. Yeah, when maybe they don't like putting their head through the head, you know, like the head space, and then you sing in a song, and that makes them as well to calm themselves. Yeah, because they sense a bit of control other than you wouldn't sing a song. And there's also a beautiful singable books that you could also do, because reading is also super important to enhance speech function in children. First, as a therapist, I have to do an assessment. I have to know the child, see what sounds they dislike, because many child dislike, for example, high-pitched sounds.
Yes.
And for example, I have clients that come because they cannot take the sound of cleaning things like, you know, the washer. Yeah. So I work with a technique in music therapy, which is auditory perception training. And then I train children and help their brains to accommodate to that sounds and to get used to those sounds, and just, you know, like I break them into pieces, I put them in songs, so I work for them to like be comfortable with them. Yes, but again, music therapy is not for everybody, so that's why it's so important to first do an assessment and see, and see if the child will be. But I do work with perception, auditory perception, yeah.